Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th edition of Ask Jeffrey Live. I'm glad to be with all of you today. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and a Merry Christmas, and I hope Santa was good to all of you. He was very good to me because I got the day off. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed spending time with Sergio and our 11 puppies. I also saw that we've had over, I want to say, 4,000 views on our Christmas video that we posted where we introduced all of the children. And I have to tell y'all, putting that video together was a feat because it's hard to control 11 puppies at the same time, but we did it. So again, I welcome all of you here this evening. If you would like to ask a question, you can ask right here on Facebook Live in the comments section, or you can actually email your questions to AskJeffrey@jeffreyfortexas.com. And we will, if you do it while we're videoing, then while we're live, then we can actually answer it immediately there. But if it's during when we're not live, then we'll answer it the next time around. So let's see, who do we have with us so far? Welcome, everyone. This weekend is New Year's. The end of 2017 is upon us. It has been a very quick year as far as I'm recollecting. But we're looking forward to the new year. 2018 is, I'm going to say, I don't think we're going to have a blue wave in Texas. I think we're going to have a blue tsunami hit Texas. And it's going to hit from one corner of Texas to the next. And I'm very excited about 2018. We actually are, it's like 64, 65 days until the primary. And we are looking forward to it. If you'll look online at jeffreyfortexas.com, you will actually see our calendar, which is quite full. In fact, it gets fuller by the moment. I've basically told Sergio, I will see you this weekend, and then I will see you around March 5th, the day before the primary. But he knew that going in, so we're good. But again, thank y'all for logging on today. I want to go ahead and we'll take a couple of questions, and then we'll talk about some other things. So let's see, I'm waiting for the first question to pop up. The first questions coming through were actually from last week. Someone had posted some questions after we had gone off the air. So let's see, Beth. Our current leaders seem to be very confused about the separation of church and state. Will you work on clarifying that? Beth, thank you so much for reaching out to us. I'm sorry that when you posted your question, we were actually off the air, but that's why we keep coming back, so we can answer all of your questions. Yes, our current leaders do seem to be slightly confused about separation of church and state. I do believe in the separation of church and state, and we need to clarify that with the government. Now, understand that with the separation of church and state, it's all or nothing. So I do believe that when we are looking at what a church can do or a religion can do and what a state can do, there are very defined roles. And we can't run the state to the direction of one religion and thus to the exclusion of others. And that's why I do believe there is a separation of church and state. I know church and religion, for many of us, I mean, I'm a God-loving Methodist, but for many of us, religion is our guidance in our everyday life. And I do understand that. However, when it comes to running the state, you can't run the state based on one religion and exclude all the others. So I do believe that a clearer sense of what separation of church and state is needs to be brought to government, and that is something that I will bring as your next governor. Pardon me. So thank you, Beth, and I appreciate that. Beth had another question about education. Creationism, sorry. In our textbooks, low student scores. We discussed education, I believe, in every single episode now. But to further let you know what's going on with education, we are actually, we have released our policy on elementary and secondary education. It is online at jeffreyfortexas.com. We also have a company video that's being processed now and being, we've already shot the video. They're actually just putting it all together right now. That will be coming out either later on today or over the weekend, so that you can see exactly where we stand on education. So I do believe that we need to, I believe that all of your answers about education will be in our policy. And we're very excited because we're actually releasing all of our policies over the next couple of weeks. And I'm very proud of the fact that our campaign is not just about promising a whole lot of things like, world-class education. We're actually speaking to how we're going to have a world-class education and how we're going to pay for a world-class education. It's very easy to get up and make promises left and right. But I believe that when you make a promise or you say you're going to advocate for something, you better show people and allow people to understand how you're actually going to get there. So our campaign is very much about making sure that we move forward with not just this is what we advocate for, but this is what we advocate for and how we're actually going to get there. So again, any education issue, pardon me, if you would like to read our policy, that is already online, the written version, but the video is coming out within the next day or two. So thank you again, Beth, and I appreciate your comments. Claudia, welcome, Claudia. Hello, Jeffrey Payne. Hello, Claudia. I've heard a lot of great things about you. Yay, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. I'm sure that's not your question, though. Let's see. Please tell me why I should vote for you. That is a great question. I believe that I have the passion for it. I have the skill set for this position, and I have the courage to actually step up and get it done. And let's talk about those three things. When, pardon me, y'all, my allergies, we could pick one temperature in this state, I would be a lot better. When I speak about skill set, let's talk about skill set. First of all, I own 5 businesses, successful businesses, from a court reporting firm to a nightclub, property management company, a land holding company, and a clothing retail outlet. So very diverse businesses, very diverse workforce that I work with. And that's the same as what you're going to work with in government. But let's talk about something even deeper than that. Before I had all these businesses, I actually worked for the Department of Labor, and I was a mediator. And when you mediate with individuals, there are 2 parties. Usually it's just 2 parties. Sometimes there is a third party, but usually it's 2 parties come in, and they're not happy about one thing or another. And you have to work with those people, those individuals that are in the room, that are having an issue, to help them come to an agreement. And with the number of mediation cases that I took care of, to come to a resolution, it's the same thing as in government. I feel that your governor should actually reach out to opposing sides, bring everyone to the table, and say, these are where the issues are. This is where we don't agree. And then work towards an agreement. That's what a mediator does. And that's what your governor should be doing. Instead, we have a governor now who is making a list of enemies. Well, that doesn't resolve anything. So as your governor, I know that everyone has a place at the table and that we can come to an agreement on issues that are actually important, like education, like livable wage, immigration, healthcare, gerrymandering. There are so many issues out there that we need, but we all need to come together and work towards solutions on real issues, not fake issues like the bathroom bill. As far as skill set, I have the skill set and I have the temperament to sit down and work with people who aren't in agreement so that we can come to an agreement. Let's talk about the passion. You know, I didn't jump into this race at the last minute. I've been at this since last July. For about a little over a year, I've been discussing this with my husband, Sergio, about my running for governor. Understand that when I got into the race, it's because I wanted to make a difference. And that's what you need in a politician and in a governor. You need someone that's actually in it because they want to be in it, because they have that desire and they've set the plan. They set a course of action in order to succeed at that job. And I have that passion. I've always had that passion. And it's the same thing such as when I had the passion for starting the nonprofits that I've set up, such as the Sharon St. Cyr Fund, which is named after my mother. We actually set up, and this was about 7, maybe 8 years ago now. It's actually been like 9 years. Sorry, time flies. But we set up a nonprofit in order to assist people who could not afford hearing aids. And that's very important because that was something that affected my family, with my brother being hard of hearing and deaf, my father being hard of hearing and deaf. It's very important to me to set up an organization. And I had the passion for that, just like I have the passion for running for governor. This wasn't something I decided at the last minute at the 11th hour and said, I'll go ahead and run. No, this was something that I feel passionate about and that I want to do and that I can't wait to actually be working for all of you as your next governor. Pardon me. And let's talk about, thirdly, the courage. It takes a lot of courage, one, to run for public office. Anyone who's run for public office or knows someone that's run for public office understands that your entire life is going to be thrown on the front page of the newspaper or the web. But you still have to have the courage to stand up and say, you know, this is me, this is all of me, warts and all. But I have the courage to go to Austin and fight for the things that we know are right. Like correcting education and funding education, knowing that I have the courage to go to Austin and fight for immigration reform, fight for healthcare and access to healthcare and affordable healthcare for everyone, not just the select few. You have to have that courage. And I've shown throughout my entire life that no matter what was thrown at me, no matter what I was going through personally, I still succeeded and I still stepped up and did what was right. And it takes courage to do that. And sometimes, because in all honesty, sometimes you have to call out your own people. You know, you have to call out your own friends when they're not doing what they need to be doing. And it takes someone that will actually do that and have the courage to not only stand up to someone on the opposing side, but stand up to someone who maybe is usually on your side. However, at that moment, they're not. So I have the passion, I have the skill set, and I have the courage. Those are the 3 reasons that I believe that I will make an excellent governor for you and going down to Austin and representing you. So thank you all. Thank you very much, Claudia, for your question. Let's see. Levi, hello, Mr. Payne. What are your top 3 priorities? That's a great question, and I appreciate it. Understand, too, that I know you're asking for top 3, but all the issues that are facing Texas are actually to me, priority. So, but I will say, if I had to pick the top three, it's going to be immigration, it's going to be healthcare, education, healthcare, and immigration. Those are my top three. However, I don't believe that means that gerrymandering and the stop to gerrymandering is any less important. I don't believe that other items on the list, such as gun control, gun safety, is any less important. So understand that I know you asked for top three. I would say those were my top three. However, I do believe, and I have the capability of multitasking so that we can actually tackle all the issues that are facing us so that we don't leave anything behind. So Levi, thank you for that. Tim commented, how many field offices are you looking at opening before the primary? Actually, Tim, before the primary, we are not opening any official field offices. They're all on hold right now until after the primary. Once we win the primary, then we will open up all the field offices, as we've already done our investigation on where we're actually going to be opening them, down to the location. So we just didn't think it was financially feasible to do it before the primary. I'm sorry, y'all. However, we've already looked into it, and what we're doing now, what we'll be doing over the next 60 days, is also finishing out the staffing of those field offices. So, Tim, thank you for your question, but we will not actually be opening any field offices outside of Dallas, our main headquarters, before the primary. So thank you. Kimberly, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. Okay. If elected, how would you work to expand Medicaid in Texas? That is one of the huge reasons so many remain uninsured in Texas. Kimberly, I couldn't agree more. First of all, one of the first phone calls I'm going to make once I am sworn in as your governor is to call the federal government and ask them to send the Medicaid expansion money that we denied back when Rick Perry was governor and continue to deny receiving it when Abbott took office. We need to reach out and tell the federal government to send us our money. People need to understand that that is money that Texans have paid into the system. It's our money. We need to have it back. By not accepting it, we actually left almost 1.8 million people without access to insurance. What kind of sense was that? Oh, this is why. Because it was Obama's idea. And God forbid we ever did anything that Obama wanted. You know, we had to, say, nope, can't take it because it was Obama's idea. So they grandstanded, literally, they grandstanded on the fact that we're not going to take this money because it was Obama's idea. But what they did do in the process was leave almost 1.8 million people without insurance. Was what? I mean, seriously, I sit back and I have to question I'll say it, the intelligence of how anyone would not accept Medicaid expansion, which would leave 1.8 million people that they represent. They're the governors. They were the governors. They represent these 1.8 million people, and yet hung them out to dry so that they could grandstand on another issue because it was Obama. And that angers me. And Kimberly, that will be one of the first things I do is make that phone call and tell them, send us our money so that we can get the individuals who need that coverage covered. So Kimberly, thank you very much for your question. I really appreciate it. Shirley, how are you going to improve education in Texas? Well, Shirley, thank you again for that question. We've discussed education in the past. Our education policy is online at jeffreyfortexas.com, and the video of that announcement will also be released within the next day, probably tomorrow, maybe today, depending on if our marketing team can round that video up. But in essence, to hit the highlights, one, we actually closed the loopholes on large corporations. due to SB 841 passed in 1997, they actually do not pay their fair share of property tax, which means that the property tax burden falls on small businesses and each of us as individuals who own homes or rent. We close those loopholes. We're actually going to bring in $5 to $6 billion into our coffers for education. So that's how we're going to fund education. Then we're going to ensure that the voucher system does not get passed, because I do not believe that public money should be going towards private schools. If you want to send your children or your child to a private school, more power to you, but you got to pay for it yourself. You're not going to use public funding to send your kid to private school. Then we need to look at the STAR testing. The way the STAR test is set up right now, we actually use it more as a punishment than we do as a tool in bettering education. We still have to test our students because of the No Child Left Behind rules and regulations. However, we can decide how we test, and we can decide what we do with the test. Testing should be done so that it is a tool to see where the student is in the learning curve, and then does the teacher need assistance? Are they doing their job? Are they not doing their job? Do they need assistance in that they need classroom management skills? Then we need to get them classroom management skills. Do they need to go back to school and learn because their subject matter, because things have changed in their area? History is being made every day. So does a history teacher need to go back and learn more about current history because she hasn't been in school for 5-10 years? If that's what we need to do, that's what a test is supposed to help us with. It's not to punish the student. It's not to punish the educator. A test is supposed to be used so that we can better the educational experience for the student and for the educator. And that's what I advocate for. We still need to test because of the No Child Left Behind rules and regulation, but how we utilize that test is what's important. And that's what we need to change. So when you look at that, again, y'all, allergies. When you look at that, when we close the loopholes for large corporations so that they're paying their fair share, then we can actually fund education like it's supposed to. Don't do the voucher system. It's a scam. I've called it a scam before. I'll stand behind it. It's a scam. It's a scam to give those who can already afford private school a coupon so that they pay less for private school. I don't agree with that. So Shirley, but again, there's more details in our education policy located at jeffreyfortexas.com, or you can wait for the video, which will come out in the next day or two. Okay, thank you so much, Shirley. All right, boy, questions are just piling in. That's great. Barry, thank you, Barry. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan to will assist elderly and disabled with property taxes? Can you clarify that for me? Do you have a plan to will? Oh, that will. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Do you have a plan that will assist elderly and disabled with property taxes? I do believe that once you hit a certain age, I'd have to check my facts on this, but your property taxes actually level off in the state of Texas. So that your property tax does not go up. So I do know that that happens, but at the same time, property taxes are so high right now, and then when someone retires, then they're on a fixed income. Sometimes they're only getting Social Security and maybe a little bit from a 401k that they may have had, or from a pension, or from a retirement fund of some sort. So what we need to look at is what are they paying, elderly and disabled. Disabled at any age, elderly once they reach a certain age, so that they're not being forced out of their home because they can't pay the property tax. And so we have to look at that and actually make suggestions on how we can do this so that the elderly and disabled can stay in the homes that a lot of them have grown up in. And so we don't need to take that away from them simply because they reached an age or they became disabled, and their property tax keeps going up. We need to make sure that it's fair and it's equitable, especially those who are going into retirement age or those who are disabled, who are maybe not able to work. They're only receiving SSI benefits. So we do need to look at that. And that's going to be one of those we have to sit down with the legislature and say, okay, this is disproportional for someone who is of retirement age, or for someone who's disabled. How can we assist them, and where can we do the assistance? But Barry, that is a very good question, and I appreciate it. And that's going to be one of those where we all sit down and have to flush through it to ensure that we're being fair to the elderly and the disabled. Matthew, how would you as governor battle homelessness? Pardon me. That is a very good question. We've discussed this, I believe it was episode 1, it may have been episode 2, where we discussed battling homelessness. What we have to do is we have to look at, pardon me, we have to look at what other cities and states are doing. I know they have a successful program in Seattle. They have a successful program, I believe it's in Denver, and we have to, in Portland, Oregon. We have to look at those programs and see how we can tweak them to work for major metropolitan cities in Texas, as well as the smaller towns and villages in Texas, like East Texas, West Texas, and so on. Because we do have to battle this homeless crisis. My first initial thoughts are we need to, A, make sure that they have a roof over their head, they have food, and most importantly, they have access to healthcare and mental health care, so that we can determine why are they homeless. And then we need to turn around and make sure that we provide training so that they can go get a job. So once they are taken care of as far as having a roof over their head, having food in their stomach, and we know that they're being properly treated for either a physical or a mental disability, we can, then we can offer them the training that they so need so that they can become what? Productive citizens of Texas. And they're off the streets. And that's what we have to do as a society, as Texans, is to make sure that we find out why they're homeless to begin with. Because I believe that if you just put a roof over their head and put food in their stomach, you're not really helping the situation. You're just doing a Band-Aid. And what we need to do is go deeper and handle all of this on the front end, which is the roof and the food, and the access to proper health care, and then the training. Because once they become productive citizens, isn't that what we want all Texans to be? Productive citizens. And so by doing it on the front end, we also need to look at Austin has some programs in place as well. And we need to also work with other groups who have, especially that have worked successfully with veterans who are homeless. We need to work with them. How can we coordinate with them? So understand that it's a multifaceted solution. However, government needs to stop being reactive and being proactive. And this is one of those issues where we can be proactive on the front end and get ahead of the crisis so that there is no longer a crisis with homelessness, whether it be veteran homelessness or homelessness in general. So Matthew, thank you so much for your question. I truly appreciate it. Tim commented, how would you deal with a Republican-controlled Congress, Republican-controlled legislature? You know, I think I get this question every time we're on the road, and it's a very valid question. Uh, Tim, with my experience as a mediator, when I was with the Department of Labor, you have to bring in on you have to bring people in who don't agree. And in this case, you have Democrats and you have Republicans. First of all, there is some common ground. But what we need to do is work beyond where our common ground is and where we don't have common ground. And as a mediator, you literally have to bring it out of people and you have to bring them to the table. And that's what I've been saying all along. Constituents elect their congressman, their state representative, or their state senator. They are the voice for their region, their constituency that they represent. We need to make sure they have a voice so that we can hear what their ideas are. No one person has a solution to everything, but as a group, and that's why we have a group in the House of Representatives. That's why we have a group in the Senate, because you have to bring people together. Instead, we have a legislature right now that's having a brawl down in the legislature, down in Austin. They're literally having a brawl where they're arguing with each other out in public. You know, this isn't the what is it called? WWF? You know, I mean, this is where we're supposed to come together. Yes, they're going to be heated arguments because people are passionate, and I get that. But at the same time, you can be passionate and be respectful. And we have to bring respect and integrity back to the legislature. And then that's where the governor comes in. You know, and currently, and I mean, I know I think I said this at the top of the hour. Currently, we have a governor who makes a list of people who don't agree with him. And then he goes after them. That's not a leader. In any way, shape, or form, is that a leader? Yes, you bring people in who don't agree with you. You invite mayors into the discussion, even the mayors who don't agree with you. Because they may have something valid to say, because they usually do. And they need to be heard so that you can come to a common agreement. We are so divisive in our government right now. It's either you're this side or that side. There is no in between. And we have to understand that if we bring everyone together and we actually have a respectful discussion, we may not get everything we want. They're not going to get everything they want. But if we don't at least start the conversation, no one is going to ever get anything they want. So let's bring everyone together, give everyone a voice. And as a mediator, in my past, with my experience, that's what I bring to the table. I know how to speak with people when it comes to, you don't agree with this person and you don't agree with that person. But that's my talent. That's my skill. I know how to bring people together. So I'm sorry, Tim, thank you very much for that. But how am I going to deal with them? You got to bring them in the room, and you have to speak with them, and you have to listen. A lot of people find it hard to listen. A lot of people just like to talk. Well, sometimes you got to stop and you have to listen. And so, Tim, thank you. To build on your statements on the deaf, hard of hearing people, what are your thoughts on teaching ASL to elementary and secondary students? I think it's an incredible idea. I've always been an advocate for that. So, Tim, yes, I believe that if we teach ASL as an elective, I think that would be wonderful. It is a language, and by the way, quite personally, you know, I know interpreting, I know ASL, I know how to sign. So I think it's a beautiful language, and I believe it's one that should be taught. So I believe that, Tim, yes, we should teach it. So thank you. Steve, speaking of Medicaid expansion in Texas, as governor, would you need to go through the legislature to make that happen, or is that something you could implement immediately? I can implement it with a simple phone call. Okay, it may not be a simple phone call. I'll probably have to go through 5 secretaries to get to where I need. But no, it is something that the governor can pull the trigger and say, let's do this. So I think my answer was shorter than your question, Steve. I'm sorry. But it's a simple answer. But thank you for asking that, and that is not something that I would need legislative approval on. So thank you. Barry commented, would you push for an audit of the lottery system? They supposedly raise millions of dollars for education. I don't see where the money is going. Our schools should have a surplus of funds. Well, they would have a surplus, Barry, thank you. They would have a surplus of funds if they didn't quit pulling funds from education. It's not so much an audit of the lottery system, although I believe the government should be audited on a regular basis to make sure that everything is on the up and up, just like I believe my nonprofits are actually audited. So should the government. We are the keeper of the people's money, and people need to be made aware that their money is going for exactly what they said it was. Now, understand, we discussed this, I believe, it may have been episode 3, where we talked about education and the lottery system. Understand that when the lottery system was implemented, it was sold as for education. Well, actually, the way the law was written, it was only 50% for education, 50% for the general fund. But what they're doing is they're taking that 50% for education and they're putting it in the education budget, but at the bottom, they're taking it out. So if you had, just for, I'm not saying, these figures are just made up. So if you had $10 billion for education and you put in 500 million from the lottery, they're just taking 500 million out on the bottom line. So you still only have 10 billion for education. It's called voodoo accounting. That's what I keep calling it. And that's how they're doing it. And so I believe that you set an education budget, and then whatever the lottery brings in is lagniappe. It's something extra. And that's what we need to do. And that's the way I believe most people, when they voted for the lottery system, thought that's how it was going to work. Unfortunately, that's not. So, but Barry, yes. I believe that the lottery system, any money from the lottery system, in accordance with the law, the way it's written, actually, it's only 50% of the proceeds go to education. So, but I believe it should be extra. It should be lagniappe. It should be a buffer in the educational system, not just to put the money in and then at the bottom of the P&L, taking the money back out. So thank you, Barry. I appreciate it. Oh, Barry. Hey, Barry. I'm sorry. I just saw your name up to my right. They just give me first names over here, but I see last names over here. So good to see you, Barry. Thank you for tuning in. Kelly. Hey, Kelly. I just realized it was you, Kelly. Good to see you. For the families that are on disability that have been cut, will there be something in order for them to be able to keep their homes and be able to afford to get by? When it comes to those who are on disability, their benefits have been cut. I do understand that. Where the federal government, especially lately, is not there for us, such as for those who are disabled, for those who are in need of medical treatment. I believe the government is more worried about, I'll go ahead and say it, they're more worried about making sure that you get a tax write-off if you own a jet than they're worried about making sure that we have a healthy population. I think that is a sad state of affairs, quite personally. It is hugely a sad state of affairs when a teacher can't write off the items that she uses or he uses in their classroom. But if I owned a jet, I could write that off. That is horrendous as far as I'm concerned. And when it comes to those individuals who are disabled, where the federal government is failing us, that's where Texans step up and we make sure that we fill in that gap. And Yes, I know we're talking about spending money, the people's money, but until the federal government can get their you-know-what straight, then Texas is going to have to depend on itself. Um, I'm not sure what direction the feds are going in right now. They seem to be very self-serving at this point. I think it is a sad, sad, sad state of affairs, the way our federal government is slashing everything that takes care of those in our society who need our help. Um, those who are disabled, they're not asking for a handout. They're disabled. Um, and I mean, when I grew up, this is not how we treated people. This is not how we handled these situations. And Kelly, I know I'm kind of, to answer your question directly, Texas will step up where the feds have let us down. But on a grander scope, when did we as a society decide it was okay to let those who could not take care of themselves or needed assistance, that it was okay to just shrug our shoulders and go, not our problem? That's not how I was raised. And I don't believe that's how any of us were raised. And it sickens me. But as your governor, we're going to take care of that. So thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that question. Sarah, recently Vital Statistics has made it harder for people updating their gender marker on their birth certificate. How do you plan to handle this if elected? Pardon me. Sarah, thank you very much. And I want to thank you because that is the first time I've been asked that question, and I've been waiting for that question. So what we need to do is we need to institute new laws which allow people to update their gender marker on their birth certificate in the manner that they see fit. And it's going to be an uphill battle. I'm not going to lie to you, Sarah. It's going to be an uphill battle, especially if we have a Republican-controlled legislature. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to go down there and kick and scream and fight for it, which is your governor is what I will do, because we have to change this. We have to make it easier. It is easier for me to buy a gun than it is for someone to update their gender marker on their birth certificate. How freaking nuts is that? So to that end, Sarah, I will advocate for it. I will fight for it. I am usually one that you can ask anyone that knows me personally. When it comes down to a good fight, I'm there and I'm in the trenches, and I will fight for it. So thank you, Sarah, for your question. I've been waiting for someone to ask me that question, and I appreciate it. But the way to successfully get this done is to have the legislature pass the law, and let's get it done, and let's move on, because this should not really even be an issue. Someone should be able to update their gender marker on their birth certificate without jumping through, I don't know the number of hoops that they have to jump through. And it's just pathetic that they have to do that. So thank you, Sarah. Adam, what about legalizing medical marijuana for autism, Tourette's, and more disabilities in Texas? I'm going to take you one step further than that, Adam. First of all, legalizing medical cannabis is something that I am for. I will promote, and it needs to be a decision between a doctor, pardon me, a doctor and the patient. And the government needs to get out of what a doctor can and cannot prescribe when it comes to medical cannabis. If that's what helps them, then that's what needs to be done, period. But I'm going to take it one step further. I do believe in the legalization of cannabis as recreational. Understand that Colorado actually has it legalized already, and their biggest out-of-state purchasers are Texans. and we need to legalize it, tax it, and bring in the revenue and keep the revenue here in Texas. And will it be an uphill battle in our current legislature? You bet. But I believe it's something that needs to be put on the ballot, and people need to have their voices heard, and I believe it will pass, and we will get it legalized, and I'm assuming recreational at that point. So, Adam, thank you. But I do believe that medical cannabis, that your specific question to, yeah, doctor needs to make that decision along with their with the patient. Mary commented, I'm sorry. I own my condo. I'm on a fixed income. Many of the owners in the complex are the same. What is happening is the HOA fees are being raised each year to the point of no longer being able to afford to live in my home. Is there a legal way to help the elderly or disabled with this? Mary, I'm going to tell you probably something a politician or someone running for office has rarely ever said. I'm going to have to get back with you on that because I honestly don't know what the government can do to help with HOA fees. And I don't want to give you some blown up answer because I think it's the one you want to hear. I'd rather give you the facts. So Mary, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask my staff if they'll put that one on a list so that I can investigate it. And next Friday, I will answer your questions specifically. So Mary, thank you very much for your comment, for your question. I'm going to look into that. And that is probably something you've never heard a politician say. But this is what you're going to get, people. So, all righty. Randall commented. Randall, thank you for joining us. It's a busy day. What about teacher retirement and insurance through TRS? Rates are high for the insurance, and the state minimum wage for teachers is also very low. And not only are the rates high for the insurance kind of sucks. There, I said it. It's not very good policy. So let's talk about that. It's in my education policy. I know I keep mentioning it. It's on jeffreyfortexas.com. What I believe we need to do when it comes to insurance is we need to, pay for insurance that is actually quality insurance, not just crap insurance, which I'm sorry, I believe the current health insurance for teachers is crap. And the rates are going up. However, what we need to do is what we do with state workers. Actually, the state workers actually have better insurance than the teachers, and it's cheaper, and it's better insurance. So why aren't we looking at that insurance and offering it to teachers? I don't know. No one will tell me why. So what we're going to do, is we're going to actually look at the programs that are out there from insurance companies so that we can find a quality insurance program that actually benefits those who are on it. And then the state needs to find, and that's why I'm talking about closing loopholes, because when I say fund education, I'm also speaking to teacher pay, teacher benefits, such as health insurance. That's part of the education when I say we need to properly fund education so that teachers aren't insurance poor, which is basically what it's become, especially with teachers' retirement, those teachers who are retired. I believe it's been, and y'all can correct me, my staff is over here, but I believe it's been 10 years and they've received maybe one raise in 10 years. Unacceptable. But insurance has gone up. So actually they're bringing home less and less and less and less. Doesn't make sense. So what we need to do is we need to fund teacher retirement. We need to fund teachers' health insurance. And we need to have a health insurance program that is actually usable and beneficial to those who are using that system. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, hey, Beck, how are you? Good. Thank you for joining us. Okay, would you be in favor of relieving the back taxes burden on vacant property seized due unpaid taxes in order to sell the property at market value and turn the property into community gardens, parks, or useful community use space? I'm going to reread that just to make sure I understood it. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, thank you, Beck. I actually, yes, very much in favor of that because I believe in a lot of the areas where we have vacant properties. They were seized due to unpaid taxes or for whatever reason they were seized. If we can turn them into a community garden or park, a community space, I think that's incredible because then it builds neighborhood camaraderie. So that children are playing with their neighbors' children and so on. And it builds a camaraderie that's outside of school, and it promotes healthy relationships where students are went back to education, where neighbors are able to communicate and not be under like the work time. They can build unity within their own community. And then studies have found that neighbors who know each other and neighbors who interact with each other actually care more about their neighborhood because they all know each other and they want to live in a great neighborhood. And so by promoting that and encouraging parks and gardens and such like that, community-based areas, people take more pride in where they're living. And that's what a park and a garden and so on are supposed to do. So yes, I'm all for that. I think it would be an incredible investment because if you invest in that park or you invest in that garden, then people are more, they have more pride in their area and in their community. And thus they're spending more time on their own home and pardon me. And by doing so, they're raising the level of their own neighborhood. So, Beck, that is a great question. And on a little side note, back to that question with the gardens. Personally, I love a garden. I wish I had the time to do my garden again. But if I planted anything in the next year, it would just die because I'm never at home. But gardens also promote the growth of healthy food. And that's incredible for especially children to see because a lot of children think that corn grows at the grocery store because they don't actually ever see a farm. So to actually witness that, for a child to witness that and to see how what the process is, what the growth process is. It's a learning activity. It promotes healthy food, which, believe me, tomatoes and corn and bell peppers and all that, it's better than a bag of barbecue Lay's potato chips, even though sometimes that's what I'll eat for lunch while we're on the road. But I believe that by having gardens, we actually are promoting a healthier lifestyle for children. So that's a little side comment to your question, but I've always enjoyed gardens and what gardens can provide to our youth as they're growing up. So thank you for that. Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us. How can we get more word out about you? I've talked to so many people about you and they haven't heard anything about you. Oh, actually, we have a video coming out. Actually, it's the Tip the Vote video. It's coming out later on this afternoon. And it's about how, in order to get the word out, and I'm going to put it in a nutshell because I don't want to do the video now because I wouldn't have to do the video. I wouldn't have to release it later. It's a cute video though, but it has dominoes, and we're all a single domino. Yet if we speak to 2 people. And then we ask those 2 people to speak to 2 people. And those 2 people speak to 2 people, and so on. It's a domino effect. Every time we go out, that's what we ask people to do, is we know that on social media, you have friends. Right now, I'm capped at 5,000. I wish we could get more. But if those 2 people spoke to 2 more people, and that's what we're asking people. If you want to get the word out about us, and thank you for wanting to get the word out for us. First and foremost, thank you. But when you spoke to people who hadn't heard about us, when you stepped out and you did that, suddenly more people heard about us. And then they'll speak to other people. And that's why we're traveling so much. That's why we're going to every village and town and city across Texas. And if you look at our calendar, it's chock full. I mean, I don't really think I'm home but a couple of days for the next 64 days. But what it's going to take are people like you, Elizabeth, to speak to your friends, to speak to your family. And yes, they may say, oh no, haven't heard about him. Well, that's the opportunity to say, this is who he is. This is where you can find out more about him. And that's how the grassroots campaign that we have going, that's how it's happening, because people are speaking to other people. And we're out there and we're getting our message out there. And we've made so much progress. And we know in the primary, we're going to take the primary. And we're very excited about that. But it's going to take people like you, Elizabeth, and thank you so much for asking the question. But understand, too, that it's people like you that are going to make the difference when this blue tsunami hits Texas. So thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. But it's actually going to be moving forward and speaking to people and to everyone you know, just like we are. So thank you. Tim, what distinguishes you from the views of Lupe? Well, I'm going to be upfront with you. I don't know what Lupe's views are. I'm just being honest. I haven't heard her speak about any of them yet. I know she was formerly the sheriff, because I believe now she has stepped down. But until I hear her policies, I'm not sure what distinguishes me from her. So I don't know. There's not, I mean, I see her, what she's done as a sheriff, but I'm not sure what she plans on doing as governor. So, Tim, if you don't mind, we'll put you on our list. And as soon as I start hearing about where Lupe stands on issues, then of course, I'll be able to distinguish how we differ, or, you know, what distinguishes us from her or her from us. But until then, I don't know. And I'm not just trying to get out of that question. I just don't know where she stands on anything right now. So, but Tim, I'm still going to put you, if Lewis, if you'll put Tim's question about Lupe on our list. And as soon as we find out more, I'll answer that question. Thank you so much, Tim. Actually, we are down to 1 minute. I do want to let everyone know that on jeffreyfortexas.com, our policies are being updated. Our views are also there as well on where we stand on the issues, but our actual detailed policies are coming out. But remember, you can always, because it does take money to run a campaign, we all know that. But you can log on to jeffreyfortexas.com and make a contribution, and I thank you in advance. Also, we have thank you gifts. It's just like, you know, what is that? Public TV, where you get but we don't send you a really bad Barry Manilow type CD or anything, or tape. And I can say that because I like Barry Manilow. Okay, there, I'll let y'all know something personal about me. I actually do like Barry Manilow. All righty, but we have thank you gifts. We have bumper stickers and buttons. Da-da-da-da. We have T-shirts. Ta-da! Rise with Jeffrey. We have yard signs. Okay. Let's see. We have hats. Why am I not holding that? Okay, there we go. We have tumblers that you can put your coffee in the morning, which I need more now than ever. And we have coffee mugs, Rise with Jeffrey, and it has blue inside too. You know, that blue tsunami that's going to hit Texas. And we also have, if you're interested, for your whole back window, you can put Jeffrey Payne for Governor 2018. You can put that on the back of your vehicle, on the whole back window. So that's online as well. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. It's been awesome. For those of you who had questions towards the very end, we will get to those first. Next Friday, remember, we're on every Friday from 12 to 1 Central Standard Time. And I have to say Central Standard Time because El Paso is in Mountain Time. So it is Central Standard Time. If you're watching this video after we've gone off air, you can actually, pardon me, you can actually still type your question in the comment section. We'll pick that up and we will actually answer your questions next Friday. Or you can email your question to AskJeffrey@jeffreyfortexas.com. So again, thank you so much. I want to wish all of you a happy new year, but first and foremost, whatever you're doing on New Year's night, please be safe. It's supposed to be, the weather's supposed to be bad. I'm not sure. The weather changes every 5 minutes. But whatever the weather is, no matter what it is, please be safe. If you need to Uber it, if you need to Lyft it, if you need to have it, make sure you have a designated driver. If anyone is drinking, it's not worth it. Your life is way more important than driving behind the wheel under the influence. So just don't do it. So, and next Friday, actually, I'll be on the road. And so we are doing live from McAllen, Texas next week. So we look forward to that. Thank you so much. Y'all have a happy new year. And I will see all of you at some point over the next 64 days. Bye, y'all.